The house was silent save for the occasional creak of wood settling against the weight of winter. Anna stood in the bathroom, brushing her hair, the soft swish of bristles the only sound. She glanced up at the mirror, her reflection meeting her gaze with an identical, practiced motion. Liam's voice floated in from the bedroom. "Are you almost done? I thought we'd watch that documentary tonight." "In a minute," she called back, though her voice sounded distant to her ears. She couldn't pull herself away from her reflection. There was nothing unusual, not at first glance. Her green eyes stared back, her chestnut hair catching the pale glow of the overhead light. But something wasn't right. Anna leaned closer, her breath fogging the glass. Her reflection mimicked her perfectly, yet the rhythm felt off, subtle but unmistakable, like a dancer just slightly out of sync with the music. She shook her head and stepped back, forcing a laugh. "I'm losing it," she muttered under her breath. Liam appeared in the doorway, his expression curious. "What's up?" "Nothing," she said quickly, running a hand through her hair. "Just tired, I guess." He stepped into the bathroom, peering into the mirror as he wrapped his arms around her waist. "You look fine to me. Come on, let's go relax." Anna nodded, though her eyes lingered on the reflection as they left the bathroom. For a fraction of a second, she thought she saw herself smile, but she hadn't. That night, she lay in bed next to Liam, staring at the ceiling. The shadows cast by the moonlight seemed to ripple, unnatural patterns shifting like liquid against the walls. She turned onto her side, her gaze landing on the mirror across the room. It stood tall, its silver surface reflecting the faint outline of their bed. Liam was already asleep, his breathing steady, but Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching from the depths of the glass. She rose quietly, padding toward the mirror. Her reflection mirrored her movements, slow and hesitant. But as she leaned in, the air around her grew cold, and the faintest whisper tickled her ears, too soft to make out the words. Anna's breath hitched. She reached a hand toward the glass, her fingertips brushing its icy surface. A sharp, sudden creak behind her made her whirl around, but there was nothing there. When she looked back at the mirror, her reflection was already smiling. The next morning, Anna couldn't shake the unease that clung to her. The reflection in the mirror haunted her, a nagging memory she couldn't dismiss. "Do you think our bedroom mirror's too big?" she asked Liam over breakfast, trying to keep her tone light. He raised an eyebrow. "Too big. You picked it out, remember? You said it made the room feel more open." "Yeah, I know." She stirred her coffee absently. "Just wondering if it's too much." Liam chuckled, not noticing her unease. "You're overthinking. I'm heading out for errands. Anything you need?" "No, I'm fine." Once he left, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Anna wandered the rooms, drawn inexplicably to the mirror in the bedroom. Its surface seemed darker than usual, the light in the room dimming the closer she got. That's when she saw it, a note, scrawled across the glass in smeared condensation. It hadn't been there before, of that she was certain. "Look deeper." Her heart thudded in her chest as she stepped closer. Her reflection loomed larger, her eyes wide and uncertain. For a moment, she thought she saw another shape, a vague silhouette shifting just behind her reflected self. Anna stumbled back, the note vanishing before her eyes. The rest of the day passed in a haze of unease. She tried to focus on chores, but her mind kept returning to the mirror. By the time Liam returned, her nerves were frayed. "I want to get rid of the mirror," she said abruptly as he walked through the door. Liam blinked. "What? Why?" "I don't like it. It's unsettling." He frowned, but didn't argue. "Okay, let's get rid of it tomorrow." That night, Anna barely slept. The whispers returned, louder now, like faint voices speaking just beyond the veil of the mirror's surface. She pressed her hands over her ears, but the sound seeped through, sending icy shivers down her spine. The next day, they loaded the mirror into Liam's truck. "There's an antique shop downtown," he said. "Maybe they'll take it." The shop was dimly lit, the air heavy with the scent of old wood and dust. Shelves lined with curious artifacts loomed over them, their shadows seeming to shift as Anna moved. A wiry man with a hunched posture appeared from behind the counter. His eyes, pale and unblinking, flicked toward the mirror. "Ah," he murmured, a faint smile curling his lips. "You found something special." Anna stiffened. "Special? It's just a mirror." The man chuckled, his voice low and rasping. "Is it? Mirrors like these don't just reflect, they reveal." She exchanged a glance with Liam, unease twisting in her gut. "What does that mean?" she asked. The man's smile widened. "Some things are better left unseen, but now that you've looked..." He trailed off, his eyes glinting with something unreadable. Anna's stomach turned as Liam handed the mirror to the shopkeeper. She swore she saw the reflection shift one last time, her own face watching her with an expression she didn't recognize. The antique shop felt like another world as Anna and Liam left, the bell above the door jingling in a way that felt almost mocking. Anna's skin prickled with unease. Even though the mirror was gone, she couldn't shake the sense of being watched. "It's just an old mirror," Liam said as they drove home, "and now it's someone else's problem." Anna nodded, forcing a smile, but her mind churned. The shopkeeper's words echoed in her head. Some things are better left unseen. That night, she finally felt a semblance of peace. The absence of the mirror's looming presence lightened the atmosphere in the bedroom. She slipped under the covers, trying to convince herself that the unease had left with the mirror, but sleep didn't come easily. In the stillness of the night, Anna woke to a faint sound, a soft scratching, like fingernails on glass. Her breath caught as she glanced around the darkened room. The walls seemed to press closer, shadow twisting into shapes that made her heart race. "Liam," she whispered, but he didn't stir. Then she heard it again, closer this time. It wasn't coming from the walls. It was coming from the closet. Anna stared, her throat dry. The closet door was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of darkness yawning behind it. She swore she saw movement, something faint, like a ripple across a still pond. She squeezed her eyes shut, telling herself it was her imagination. But when she opened them again, she froze. Two faint shapes glimmered in the darkness, reflective and unblinking. Eyes. She didn't scream, didn't move. The eyes didn't belong to any creature she could imagine. They were too perfect, too familiar. They were her own. Anna's body stiffened as the shapes faded, swallowed by the shadows. The house fell silent once more, save for the frantic pounding of her heart. The next morning, she told Liam what she'd seen. "It was probably a bad dream," he said, brushing her hair back. "You've been tense ever since we got rid of that mirror." "It wasn't a dream," Anna insisted. "It felt real, Liam, like it was waiting." He frowned, but before he could answer, the doorbell rang. When Anna opened the door, her blood ran cold. Standing on the porch was the shopkeeper from the antique store. "I believe this is yours," he said, his voice smooth and cold. In his hands, wrapped in a dark cloth, was the mirror. Anna stumbled back. "No, we gave it to you. We don't want it." The man tilted his head, his pale eyes glinting. "The mirror doesn't choose just anyone. Once it finds you, it doesn't let go." Before Anna could protest, the man set the mirror down on the porch and turned, disappearing into the foggy street. That night, the mirror sat in the living room, draped in the cloth. Liam suggested they leave it out until morning, but Anna couldn't ignore its presence. She swore she felt it pulsing, like a heartbeat reverberating through the house. The whispers began again as they lay in bed, faint and fragmented. They didn't come from outside this time. They came from within, from the mirror. By the following evening, the tension in the house was unbearable. Liam, ever the skeptic, tried to reassure Anna, but even he had started glancing nervously at the mirror whenever they passed it. "We need to do something," Anna said, her voice shaking. "It's not just a mirror. It's connected to something else." "Like what?" Liam asked, though his tone lacked the confidence it once held. Anna hesitated, unsure how to explain the growing dread that had taken root in her chest. "I don't know, but it's watching us, and it wants something." Liam sighed. "Okay, let's just break it. That'll solve everything, right?" "No." Anna grabbed his arm, surprising them both with the force of her reaction. "I mean, what if breaking it makes it worse? Worse than this?" Liam gestured around the room, where the shadows seemed unnaturally dark. Anna couldn't argue. Instead, she opened the cloth covering the mirror. Its silver surface gleamed in the dim light, unnervingly clean and flawless. But as they stared, something shifted. Their reflections appeared, but they weren't quite right. Liam's reflection grinned faintly, though his real face remained blank. Anna's reflection tilted its head, as if studying them from the other side of the glass. The air grew colder. "What is this?" Liam whispered. The reflections began to move, their motions slow and deliberate, independent of Anna and Liam's stillness. Anna felt her knees weaken as her mirrored self leaned closer, pressing a hand against the glass. Then it spoke. "You belong here now," it said, its voice a warped echo of Anna's own. Liam grabbed her hand, pulling her away from the mirror as the reflections grew more animated. Their grins widened unnaturally, and the silver surface began to ripple, like water disturbed by an unseen force. "We have to leave," Liam said, his voice tight with fear. But when they tried to move, the air thickened, rooting them in place. The reflections mimicked their struggle, mocking their panic. "Let us in," the mirrored Liam said, his eyes gleaming with malice. "No," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. "We'll never let you in." Her reflection tilted its head again, its smile fading. "Then we'll wait." With that, the glass surface smoothed, their reflections freezing back into perfect stillness. The room was silent once more, but the tension lingered, an unspoken promise of what was to come. Anna and Liam stared at the mirror, their fear mirrored only by the blank, empty eyes staring back. The house was still, its air thick with an unnatural chill. The mirror loomed in the living room like a dark sentinel, its surface now silent but far from dormant. Anna and Liam sat across from it, the space between them and the glass feeling more like a barrier than a distance. "We can't just wait for it to do whatever it's planning," Liam said, his voice low. The flickering candlelight cast restless shadows across his face, making him look older, wearier. Anna nodded. "We have to stop it. But how? Smashing it might make things worse," Liam finished for her. "I know, but keeping it here feels like inviting disaster." As the words left his mouth, the candle nearest the mirror sputtered violently, its flame bending toward the silver surface as though drawn by an unseen force. Anna gasped, her hand gripping Liam's arm. "It's listening," she whispered. Before Liam could respond, a faint ripple spread across the mirror's surface. The reflections returned, but they weren't frozen anymore. They were watching, silent, unmoving except for their dark, glinting eyes. Anna's reflection leaned forward, pressing a hand to the glass. The motion was slow and deliberate, as if testing the boundary between their worlds. "They want to cross over," Anna said, her voice trembling. And what happens to us if they do? Liam asked. The question lingered, heavy and unanswered. The next hour passed in tense silence. Liam paced the room, while Anna sat motionless. Her eyes locked on the mirror. The reflections hadn't moved again, but their presence pressed down on her, palpable and suffocating. Finally, she broke the silence. The shopkeeper said mirrors like this don't let go. That means there must be a way to break its hold. Something we haven't tried yet. Liam stopped pacing. Like what? A ritual? Some kind of reversal? Anna thought back to the whispers, the warped echoes of her own voice. They had spoken to her, taunted her, but there was a pattern to their words, something about belonging, about a trade. What if it's a connection? She said suddenly. What if it's feeding on us somehow? Our attention, our fear. What if ignoring it weakens it? Liam frowned. Ignore it. Anna, it's not a stray dog. It's inside our house, inside us. But as he spoke, the reflections began to move again. This time, they didn't mimic or watch. They paced. Slowly, methodically, they walked back and forth within the mirror, their movements hypnotic and wrong. Liam took a step back. Whatever you're thinking, we need to act fast. Anna closed her eyes, forcing her breath to steady. If the mirror fed on fear, she needed to starve it. With trembling hands, she grabbed a blanket and draped it over the glass, covering it completely. The room fell eerily silent. What now? Liam asked, his voice tight with unease. We wait, Anna said. Her words were brave, but her body betrayed her fear. Her hands shook, her breath hitched. The house seemed to hold its breath with them, every creak and whisper amplified in the absence of the mirror's presence. At first, nothing happened. The blanket hung lifelessly, a simple fabric barrier. But then, the temperature in the room plummeted. Frost began to creep along the edges of the blanket, threading its way across the fabric in intricate patterns. Anna. Liam's voice was barely audible. The blanket shifted, as though pulled by a faint breeze. The sound of faint whispers returned, threading through the room like a haunting melody. Anna squeezed her eyes shut, refusing to look. It's trying to draw us back, she whispered. Don't give it power. Don't look. The whispers grew louder, forming words now. Pleas, promises, threats. They were fractured echoes of Anna's own voice. Liam's voice, mingled with others she didn't recognize. Anna, it's moving, Liam said, his tone edged with panic. Don't look, Anna snapped, gripping his hand tightly. The whispers swirled into a crescendo, the air vibrating with unseen energy. For a moment, it felt as though the entire house would collapse under the weight of the sound. And then, silence. The frost receded. The air warmed. The whispers faded into nothingness. Anna opened her eyes cautiously. The blanket had fallen to the floor, crumpled and lifeless. The mirror stood dark and still, its surface no longer reflective, but dull and opaque, like tarnished silver. Is it over? Liam asked, his voice hoarse. Anna stepped closer, her heart pounding. She placed a hand on the mirror's surface, and for the first time it felt solid. Cold, lifeless. I think we broke the connection, she said, her voice barely a whisper. That night, they carried the mirror to the backyard and buried it beneath the frozen soil. Neither of them spoke as they worked, the moon casting pale light over their solemn task. When they finished, they stood side by side, staring at the freshly turned earth. Do you think it's really gone? Liam asked. Anna hesitated before answering. I don't know, but it's not in our house anymore. That's enough for now. As they turned to go back inside, Anna glanced over her shoulder one last time. For a fleeting moment, she thought she saw something, a faint glimmer beneath the dirt, like light catching on glass. But when she blinked, it was gone.